In the tranquil suburb of Lake Forest, the soft hum of daily life was suddenly disrupted by an unsettling undercurrent. It started as a whisper, a rumor passed in hushed tones at the local coffee shop and during leisurely walks along tree lined streets. Valuables were disappearing: jewelry, designer handbags, cherished heirlooms. At a hastily arranged neighborhood meeting in the community hall, unease crackled in the air like static. Residents gathered, sharing disjointed stories that formed a patchwork of fear and suspicion. "My grandmother's necklace," one elderly woman lamented, "gone without a trace." Another spoke of a vanished watch, a family heirloom passed down through generations. As each tale was shared, eyes shifted nervously around the room, searching for signs of deceit among neighbors. Through the din of worried chatter, two households identified a common thread: Serena Alvarez. The young babysitter had been present in several homes where thefts occurred. This revelation sent ripples through the gathering, turning suspicion into palpable tension. The quiet girl who had watched over their children with diligence and care was now at the center of a swirling mystery. Detective Marcus Colton was soon called to untangle these troubling connections. Known for his meticulous approach, Colton set up at the Gilmer police station to evaluate the claims. Inside his office, he sifted through reports that painted Serena as both an upstanding young woman and a potential thief. Colton faced skepticism from colleagues who found it hard to believe Serena could be involved. Her spotless background and calm demeanor made her an unlikely suspect. Yet as he examined the timelines of her babysitting schedule against the reported thefts, patterns began to emerge, patterns that couldn't be ignored. The more Colton delved into Serena's timeline, the clearer it became that her babysitting stints coincided with many thefts. Each overlap added weight to an already heavy cloud of doubt hanging over her innocence. Colton decided it was time to move beyond paperwork and theories. Direct action was needed. Surveillance operations began on the quiet streets of Lake Forest. From nondescript vans parked at strategic corners, officers watched Serena's every move. Her routine seemed ordinary at first: trips to the park with children in tow, grocery runs, but there was something elusive about her pattern. As days passed without clear evidence of wrongdoing, frustration simmered among neighbors who felt their privacy invaded by watchful eyes. But it was during these tense days that Colton observed an intriguing behavior. Whenever neighbors mentioned police involvement, Serena subtly altered her routine, an indication she might be aware she was being watched. With no concrete evidence yet uncovered from surveillance, but an undeniable sense that something was amiss, Colton resolved to confront Serena directly. A formal interrogation might unravel threads she so carefully kept hidden or reveal truths even she didn't expect. As dusk settled over Lake Forest, casting long shadows across manicured lawns and quaint homes, Detective Colton prepared for this next step: a direct confrontation that could either confirm their suspicions or twist them into deeper mystery. But just as plans were being finalized for Serena's questioning, an unexpected discovery sent shockwaves through the investigation team. Another resident reported a theft coinciding perfectly with Serena's last known babysitting job, a theft that pushed the cumulative loss past $10,000. The urgency intensified as Colton realized time was against them. What if Serena wasn't acting alone? And what other secrets lay hidden beneath her composed exterior? As night descended on Lake Forest, one thing became clear: the whispers would only grow louder until every truth was laid bare. Detective Marcus Colton sat in his office, the weight of a growing scandal pressing down on his shoulders. The latest report of theft had come in, matching Serena Alvarez's last babysitting stint, escalating the urgency of the investigation. He needed more than circumstantial timelines. He needed insights into Serena's character from those who knew her best. Colton set out to interview the families Serena had worked for. In the cozy living room of Mrs. Thompson, he sipped lukewarm tea as she recounted Serena's seemingly unremarkable behavior. "She was always polite, kept to herself mostly," Mrs. Thompson said, wringing her hands. "But now that you mention it, she did start asking about my jewelry collection, how much certain pieces were worth. I thought she was just interested in fashion." This pattern repeated across other homes in Lake Forest. Families expressed disbelief, their protective instincts flaring up at the idea of Serena being guilty. Yet beneath their defenses lay hints of unease as they recalled Serena's sudden interest in expensive items and her evasive answers when questioned about her life outside babysitting. In one household, Mr. Patel hesitated before speaking up. She once mentioned how selling things online could be a quick way to make money, he said cautiously. I didn't think much of it until now. The mention of online sales sent a chill through Colton, an avenue that could unravel more than just petty theft. Armed with these insights, Colton prepared for a direct confrontation with Serena. At the Gilmer police station, he faced her across an interrogation table. Serena maintained a calm facade, denying any wrongdoing with an air of innocence that seemed almost practiced. I've never stolen anything, she insisted, eyes steady on Colton's. Yet as the questioning continued, subtle slips began to surface. Serena referenced specific missing items from multiple homes, weaving them into a single narrative that only someone with intimate knowledge could know. You mentioned Mrs. Thompson's watch and Mr. Patel's ring in the same breath, Colton noted sharply. How do you know they're both missing? Serena faltered momentarily before recovering her composure. I must have overheard it somewhere, she replied coolly. Colton leaned back, suspicion thrumming through him like a live wire. Her knowledge was too precise to be mere coincidence. It was time to delve into her digital footprint, a task that would require meticulous scrutiny of her online activities. As Colton left the interrogation room, his mind churned over the possibilities her slips had uncovered. If Serena was selling stolen goods online, there would be records, transactions, and listings hidden behind aliases waiting to be traced back to her. The investigation team assembled late into the night, combing through social media marketplaces and transaction histories linked to known aliases Serena had used in the past. Every click brought them closer to untangling the web she had spun around Lake Forest. Just as exhaustion threatened to overtake them, a breakthrough emerged. An account linked to Serena's email showed active listings matching descriptions of several stolen items, rings, necklaces, handbags, all laid out for sale like trophies of her deceit. As dawn broke over Lake Forest, illuminating its serene streets and casting long shadows on its secrets, Detective Colton realized they were on the brink of exposing more than just thefts. It was a network that might involve unwitting accomplices or buyers caught in Serena's tangled web. But before he could act on this revelation fully, another report came through. A burglary at an influential local figure's home. Items missing bore striking resemblance to those listed online by Serena's alias. The stakes had just been raised exponentially. Detective Marcus Colton stood at the threshold of a breakthrough, the findings from the previous night still fresh in his mind. The local figure's burglary, linked to Serena Alvarez's online alias, had propelled the investigation into urgent territory. With dawn casting a tentative light over Lake Forest, Colton directed his attention to the digital labyrinth that Serena might be navigating. In the hushed confines of the Gilmer Police Station's Cyber Forensics Department, Colton and his team prepared to dive into Serena's digital activities. The room buzzed with low voices and the hum of computers as detectives scrutinized screens filled with endless data, transactions, usernames, and obscure aliases. Each click was a step deeper into understanding Serena's illicit undertakings. We need to find a concrete connection between these online sales and Serena's movements, Colton instructed, scanning the trove of information. The task was daunting. Initial searches yielded little but frustration. The data was vast, like a sprawling maze designed to obfuscate rather than illuminate. Hours passed before they stumbled upon a critical link, an alias that matched delivery schedules perfectly with Serena's babysitting shifts. It was as if Serena had orchestrated her life around these thefts, hugging the shadows yet leaving behind digital footprints that led directly to her doorstep. This alias, it connects to her recent movements, an analyst confirmed, pointing at the screen where delivery times aligned suspiciously with Serena's whereabouts during her babysitting gigs. Colton leaned closer, his pulse quickening. It's enough for us to set up a sting operation, he decided, formulating a plan to catch Serena in the act of selling her ill-gotten gains. Transitioning their focus from analysis to action, Colton orchestrated a stakeout at known courier pickup points around Lake Forest. This next phase required patience and precision, a chance to observe Serena potentially delivering stolen goods. The team waited in unmarked vehicles parked discreetly near drop-off locations. Surveillance teams were positioned strategically, eyes trained on every passerby. Yet Serena proved elusive. She altered her routes unpredictably, slipping away just as they thought they had her pinned down. "She knows we're watching," one officer muttered over the radio, frustration evident in his voice. But perseverance paid off when, during a late afternoon shift change at one courier station, they finally saw her. Serena approached with a package clutched tight against her side. She moved swiftly, handing it off to a courier whose routes had been traced back to several known buyers of stolen goods. Colton watched through binoculars as the exchange took place. This was it, the tangible evidence they needed. "We've got enough for a search warrant," he announced with grim satisfaction as officers snapped photos and noted details of the transaction. Back at headquarters, Colton prepared for coordinated raids on Serena's residence and her online accounts. The adrenaline surged. This was their moment to unravel the threads she had woven so intricately around herself and unsuspecting buyers. But just as they were poised to strike, an unexpected call came through. A new report of another theft at yet another influential figure's home in Lake Forest. The items missing bore chilling resemblance to those recently listed under Serena's alias. Colton froze momentarily, realization dawning on him like icy water down his spine. The stakes were higher than anticipated. This was not just about recouping stolen goods. It threatened to expose something far more sinister lurking beneath Lake Forest's serene surface. As he ordered his team into action, a stark thought lingered. What if this network ran deeper than anyone imagined? What if Serena wasn't working alone? And as these questions hung unanswered in the air, Detective Colton knew that tonight would either bring closure or shatter everything they thought they knew. Detective Marcus Colton stood in the brisk morning air, the weight of the investigation pressing heavily on his shoulders. The raid on Serena Alvarez's residence was about to commence, following the digital trail they had uncovered. The team was tense but ready, fully aware that today's actions could finally bring clarity to the tangled web of thefts that had plagued Lake Forest. As officers approached Serena's modest home, she stepped outside, her face a mask of defiance. "Do you have a warrant?" she demanded, attempting to delay with legal threats. "My lawyer will hear about this." Her voice was steady, but there was an unmistakable edge of panic. The community watched from a distance, whispers of curiosity and tension spreading among them like wildfire. The officers presented the warrant, and despite Serena's protests, they proceeded inside. Each room was methodically searched, their suspicions soon confirmed as they unearthed a significant cache of stolen goods, jewelry, handbags, and more laid out in careful rows. With every item uncovered, the narrative that Serena was merely an unwitting participant became less tenable. Colton directed his team to document and seize the evidence. However, as they worked, another question loomed. Was Serena operating alone? The discovery compelled further searches in adjacent rooms and storage spaces. Their efforts revealed even more stolen items than initially reported, pieces that hadn't been listed by victims in their initial reports. This finding suggested either a broader scope to Serena's activities or potentially implicated others. Transitioning from the raid site, Colton knew they had to return these items to their rightful owners and gather further insights into any discrepancies. The team moved swiftly through Lake Forest, revisiting homes where Serena had once been a trusted presence. In each living room and kitchen they entered, relief mixed with frustration greeted them. Families were grateful for the return of their belongings, but puzzled by the appearance of items they hadn't realized were missing or thought unrelated to Serena. At Mrs. Thompson's home, Colton laid out a set of earrings and a bracelet. "These were yours," he stated, watching her eyes widen with recognition and surprise. "I didn't even know those were taken." she admitted, a frown creasing her brow. Mr. Patel's reaction was similar when presented with cufflinks he hadn't noticed were gone. This is more than we expected, he confessed quietly, hinting at an unsettling notion that resonated through all affected families, that perhaps Serena was not the sole thief in this saga. These revelations raised crucial new questions. Had Serena misreported her activities? Or were there unseen accomplices lurking in Lake Forest's shadows? Colton's mind raced with possibilities as he compiled notes from each visit. Back at headquarters, urgency thrummed through the air as officers pieced together timelines and testimonies. The implication of other players in this scheme was both daunting and fascinating. A deeper network might exist beneath their noses. Just as they began to outline their next steps, another call shattered the air of tentative victory. A fresh theft had occurred at yet another prominent home. The items missing bore similarities to those recovered earlier today, but with one key difference. These were newly reported thefts. Colton stared at the phone with disbelief before snapping into action mode. His instincts screamed that something more complex lay behind these crimes, an elaborate dance orchestrated by more than just one player. As night fell once more on Lake Forest, Detective Colton realized they were standing at the precipice of unearthing not just a series of thefts, but potentially exposing an intricate network that extended far beyond what they had imagined. As dusk fell once more over Lake Forest, Detective Marcus Colton prepared to delve deeper into the mystery that had gripped the community. The fresh theft report added urgency to their mission, prompting an immediate return to Serena Alvarez's residence. With a second search warrant secured, they hoped to uncover more than just stolen goods this time. During their methodical sweep of Serena's bedroom, an officer stumbled upon a concealed compartment within the nightstand. Inside lay a collection of journals, each meticulously dated and seemingly encoded. The discovery sparked a flurry of activity as officers carefully extracted the books, their excitement tempered by the challenge ahead, decoding whatever secrets Serena had meticulously documented. Back at the station, Colton gathered his team, their focus now on unraveling the cryptic notes that filled each journal page. Days turned into nights as they labored over the intricate symbols and shorthand that Serena had used to obscure her activities. Finally, a breakthrough emerged. The journals detailed not just the items stolen, but also an elaborate network of buyers. The notes referenced transactions with a precision that suggested more than just casual sales. Among these entries was mention of a local figure known only by an alias, a cryptic nod towards someone influential in Lake Forest. This revelation complicated an already tangled web and demanded immediate attention. Colton, realizing the gravity of this connection, decided it was time to identify this influential buyer. Back in his office at the Gilmer police station, he pored over records, aligning journal entries with known community members. The tension was palpable as he pieced together clues pointing towards a prominent businessman whose reputation was beyond reproach. The realization hit hard. Not only was this figure unwittingly entangled in Serena's operations, but his involvement, however innocent, threatened to upend public trust and complicate legal proceedings. Colton knew the stakes had been raised. Handling this delicately could mean the difference between resolution and scandal. With this discovery came new challenges. How would they approach someone who might be both victim and beneficiary? Colton assembled his team to strategize their next move. They debated how best to navigate potential media fallout while ensuring justice was served without collateral damage. As they formulated plans, another layer of complexity emerged. Serena's journals hinted at deeper motivations behind her actions, notes suggesting she'd been pressured or manipulated by external forces unknown. This revelation left Colton questioning if Serena was merely a pawn in a larger scheme. The investigation had reached a pivotal moment. Colton knew they couldn't afford missteps when dealing with someone of influence. Yet as he prepared for what lay ahead, one chilling thought lingered. Had they truly uncovered all players involved? Or were there still shadows hiding in plain sight? As night deepened outside the station's windows, casting long shadows across Colton's desk, He felt the weight of every decision yet to be made. The truth seemed tantalizingly close, but remained just out of reach. A final puzzle piece waiting to fall into place. In that moment of quiet introspection, Colton realized that even as they closed in on answers, new questions would inevitably arise. The case might find resolution soon enough, but its repercussions would echo through Lake Forest for years to come. Thus ended the investigation's most intense chapter, a resolution intertwined with ambiguity and deeper truths still waiting to surface. And as dawn approached once more over Lake Forest, one thing remained certain: not every shadow can be illuminated by light alone.